All right, as you guys are getting set up, I'll make sure all the sound is good and give you a quick rundown on what we're going to do today. First of all, thank you all for attending this afternoon. This is a little media gathering where Coach Jay Johnson is going to talk about the Fall 2022 roster. If you haven't grabbed a copy yet, there's a copy right here on the table if you need a copy of the roster. Also, Coach will talk about the incoming class of 21 players that are joining the team this fall. He'll talk about those new additions and also some of the events coming up this fall, what fall practice is going to look like and things of that nature. Then when Coach Jay is done with his opening remarks, he'll take questions from you guys. And if you would allow Ashley to come to you first with the microphone, because this is streaming live and it's going to be recorded. So we just wait for Ashley, and if you could ask your question with the remote mic, and Jay will take your questions. And once Jay's done, he's going to introduce Coach Wes Johnson, our pitching coach. Coach Wes will come up and take questions, and then Jay will introduce Coach Josh Jordan, our new assistant coach and recruiting coordinator, and Josh will take questions, and that will wrap it up. So we'll go ahead and get started with Coach Jay Johnson. Coach Jay today officially entering his second season as the head coach of the Tigers.
Good to see everybody. August 22nd, we're talking about college baseball. That's what makes this the best place in America to coach and to play. And so thank you guys for coming out and covering our program the way that you do. There'll be Major League Baseball games going on today all across the United States where there's not even this environment, covering those games. So it's something we're really grateful for. It's been a busy summer, obviously, from the last time that we spoke at the end of the NCAA tournament. Had a very productive summer relative to completing the roster. We feel great about where we are as a starting point for the fall here in 22 and building to the 23 season. I think a couple things that stand out is we definitely were able to upgrade and address some areas that we needed to improve and feel great about that part of it. We like the talent across the board. That being said, the talent does not make us a team, and it doesn't make us skilled to win games today, which the good part of that is we have some time to develop the team, which we take every day very serious in terms of that and how we build. And to give you some framework of the fall, starting today, going through October 6th, will be all skill instruction, strength and conditioning, where we can have the players 8 hours a week, and then we'll start our 45-day fall segment October 7, and we'll run that through Sunday, November 20th. A couple of the key dates in there. Sunday, November 6th, we will play McNeese at home in one of our fall games, and then Sunday, November 13th, we'll play at Louisiana Lafayette, and then the last weekend, November 18 to 20, we'll have our Purple and Gold World Series. So very excited to get into that process with our team and do what we need to do to develop to be prepared when we turn the corner to 2023. Very excited about the blend of new players with the returners. There was one point last season, in my head, I had a thought of how I wanted this to look, and it was simply the best players and best people from last year's roster that had the opportunity to return, and the guys that we're bringing back, we certainly feel good about. Something that I'm excited about is, in my coaching time, the biggest improvements I've ever seen of any players between years 1 and 2 and working with them, whether a freshman and becoming a sophomore or if it's our first year or second year with the program. So I'm very excited about that. I think there'll be some familiarity with the team and the group that our players will benefit from, the returning players. And then we felt excited about where we were headed in the recruiting class, as we talked about last fall in November. Certainly added some really talented players at some key positions that will be important names in our program for the next few years, which we're excited about. And then when you kind of put those two parts together, the returners, the incoming players, assessing the draft, what that was potentially going to look like and how that was going to affect us, then now we have an avenue with the transfer portal, and we're able to add 5 players there, which was all very, very intentional in how we came up with that. So very excited about the group and excited to answer any questions that you guys have.
Coach, with the 5 transfer portal players, it looks like most of those guys have multiple years, left of eligibility here. Just how important was that in terms of recruiting guys that would not only be around for this year, but could be staples of the program, for the next couple seasons?
Yeah, really good question. And I think as we're evolving, in this new time, I'm learning something every day. And, we actually had a few more, and the guys that were draft eligible, all of them that were draft eligible, that had committed to us, we actually lost in the draft. And so moving forward, I think that's something that we'll pay attention to. But relative to the 5 that we got, very excited about them. Obviously, the upgrade in pitching talent, ability to strike people out, ability to dominate with strikes, the ability to throw your fastball where you want it to change speeds. We feel great about the ones that we added with Paul Skeens, Thatcher Hurd, and Christian Little. I think all of them have the potential to be major league pitchers someday. I think they'll complement the returners that we have. And the story of this is not just going to be about the guys that we brought in, but the improvement of the guys on the roster from last year. When you look at a Grant Taylor, Ty Floyd, Riley Cooper, guys that had significant or made significant contributions. But in that regard, the idea is we'll probably only have Paul and Christian for this year, and then very excited to have Thatcher for the next 2 years. And so when you looked at, what pitcher was out there that could be a massive contributor for the next 2 years, he was the guy that jumped right to the top of the page, and we made a huge priority to get him. Relative to the 2 position players, they both have 2 years of eligibility left with Tommy Wyatt and Ben Napolt. And with Tommy, one of the best hitters in the country. I think he was a National Freshman of the Year. The power and the numbers and all that really jump out at you. But I think what you guys will come to appreciate is how quality of hitter he actually is. And, there's room for growth and improvement there too. So I'm certainly excited about that. But, looking at it, I think we're in an era now where you're kind of looking at building your team 1 year at a time, and then it becomes almost a bonus when you can add guys that you're going to have for multiple years.
If you would, you talked about the returning players. Could you comment on their summers? Any significant, improvements or, challenges that they faced?
Billy, can you hear that?
Chief, can you get that?
Louder back there.
Sorry, Coach. I'm working on it. I'm working on my projection. Is it on?
Yeah, I think the question was commenting on the returning players and the summers and productivity and those types of things. Looking at the 2 obvious that jump out is a great honor for Dylan Cruz and Trey Morgan to make and play for Team USA. Paul Skeens, incoming transfer, was also on that team. It's a great honor, to be selected to that when it's 25 guys across the country to put USA across their chest, and 3 of those players came from LSU. It's a good thing for our program. I think last year, at least the last 2 years, they've both, Dylan and Trey, have established themselves as 2 of the better players in the country, and continue to build in their development over the summer with Team USA. Josh Pearson, went and played in the Cape Cod League. Jordan Thompson went and played in the Cape Cod League. A lot of the pitchers we're very careful with. We're obviously going to put their health first. So there wasn't a lot of them that actually needed to go throw innings with how we used the pitching staff last year. Equal distribution pretty much across the board. But Grant Taylor, as I mentioned before, stood out and had some good outings in the Cape Cod League as well.
Hey, Coach. I was sort of curious about the situation with Paul Skeens. What's sort of planned for him as a hitter, and is he going to see the field at all while he's also pitching?
Yeah, he's going to be a hitter and a pitcher here, no question about that. He has tremendous power, tremendous bat speed. I think if he was just a position player alone, we probably still would have recruited him all the same. I think on the mound, you're talking about a pitcher that has an opportunity to be one of the best pitchers in the country, potential high draft pick. we'll probably lean to the side, and you always have to do this in a two-way player situation where you have to take care of their body and their arm first. And so that's what we'll do with Paul. But we think he can really positively impact our offense. And other Coach Wes Johnson and myself have already spent a lot of time mapping out his days. Like, for instance, today, he's with Wes at 10:30 and be able to go through his pitching development, go through his weight room development, and then recovery. And then he would join the hitters on a day like today in the afternoon and be, completely clear. So we'll pay attention to that. As far as the defensive thing, we'll see. We do not plan on him catching at this point in time. I think when you look at a pitcher that has an opportunity that Paul does to advance his career in that way, we have to be smart about protecting him.
Coach, one position group I know that you were feeling questionable about last year was left-handed pitchers. Do you feel more confident in the number of left-handers you have on your staff now? I noticed there's a new name on here, DJ. So I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, I think, Augie Garrido, great coach. I spent a little bit of time with him when I was a really young coach, and, we were just talking baseball, and he just said left-handed pitching and left-handed hitting. If you want to build a national championship caliber team, was something that was important to him. I won't go into the thought process of why. It's something if you followed or you have any background on our teams at Arizona or Nevada, that was a big component in how we built them, and it's something we want to do here. It was very difficult last year, really only having two guys that you could go to from the left side, but, adding a few more, in the high school class, Nick Bronzini, Griffin Herring, I think we're at 5 for the fall and feel really, really good about that.
Hey, Coach, not sure if we had a chance to ask you about this, but just what drew you to Coach Johnson and Coach Jordan and wanting to bring those two guys, aboard the program?
Yeah, easy decisions, honestly. And give you a little background on it. I tried to hire Coach Wes last year when I got the job. The timing just didn't work, and it's very understandable and that. But, kind of going back before that, having a background of and understanding his background, coaching at Dallas Baptist, Coach Hefner there is always on the forefront of development of players. And then when Wes went to Mississippi State, we played each other in the 2016, Super Regional. So firsthand, got a chance to see, how he developed a pitching staff, and still to this day, we won that Super Regional, but that was the most complete pitching staff, or one of two that I can remember in my entire coaching career in terms of talent, ability to execute, the whole package that I've ever seen. They won the SEC that year. And then the next 2 years, just, by coincidence, at Arizona, we played Arkansas when he was at Arkansas the 2 years prior to that. And I think we won one of the games 3-0, and they beat us 1-0. And so, coaching against him from an offensive standpoint with his pitchers felt like a dentist appointment. And then it goes much, much deeper than that. If you just follow baseball, great pitching coaches are really hard to find, and they can change or impact everything. And so when you look at the development model, the ability to communicate, the ability to put players in positions to be successful by assessing what they need to see it, and then be able to attach what you need to do, both physically from an arm standpoint, and then get them programmed out to actually be able to turn that into improvement. There's not 10 people in baseball that I think can do that, and he's the best at that. So that was pretty easy. And then relative to Josh, again, another easy decision. One of the benefits of recruiting a lot is you get to see who actually does a great job. And that starts with work ethic. That starts with the ability to build relationships, both with players and people that are influential in players' decisions. And his attention to detail, work ethic, ability to communicate, all those things really, really stood out. And, Coach Pollard and Josh did an unbelievable job at Duke. You think Duke, you think Coach K, basketball, all that type of stuff. But you're talking about a baseball program that's had 3 top 10 recruiting classes in a row and been in 2 super regionals, in the past 4 or 5 years. And they started basically from scratch. And that has a lot to do with his ability to bring talented players to a place that wasn't highly thought of relative to baseball. That's completely changed now, and I have no doubt, he'll be successful in helping us do that.
Coach, could you assess your candidates on the middle infield, and also give us an update on the recovery of Javen Coleman?
Yeah, relative to the middle infield, Jordan Thompson obviously is back. I thought he had a very good season for us last year as an offensive player. I think if you look at the most important games that we won, Jordan probably had a clutch hit in that, including both games that we won in the NCAA tournament. I thought from probably, let's call it the midpoint, I thought he did a much better job defensively at shortstop, and I have a lot of confidence in Jordan. I think we brought in the best player in the state of Louisiana in Gavin Guidry. Was a 2-way player at Barb. I think he was the state player of the year, if I'm not mistaken. He will exclusively, at least for the time being, play infield here because that's where the greater need is. I think very thankful to him. Had a lot of pro interest. Turned down significant potential bonus money in the draft, and I always think that's significant because I think it shows, confidence in your ability. And if you're going to succeed as a freshman at this place, you have to have tremendous confidence. He's a great athlete, really good runner, which we need more of, in the program, relative to athleticism. Very hard-nosed player, obviously comes from a great program at Barb. And I'm really, really anxious, to get out there and get working with him. Ben Napolt was an infielder that we picked up from Virginia Commonwealth. The thing that jumps right off the page, he's an all-conference player, but I think he almost had twice as many walks as strikeouts and ability to handle the bat. When you think about potentially the other position players that could make a positive impact on the team, just having a guy that gives you quality at bats and whatever you need when they're at the plate fits very well. And those types of players have always usually been pretty successful relative to playing for our team. So excited about those guys. Gavin Dugas, we will spend some time in the infield as well in the fall. If you saw him right now, probably wouldn't recognize him. He looks like he's in tremendous shape. Ability to move obviously is going to be important. He has a good throwing arm, so there's no concerns about turning a double play. We were in a bad injury spot last year at Alabama. We actually had him play third base, and he did that fine. So I'm anxious to see how that takes. Jack Merrifield went out and played this summer, made a good contribution for us early in the season last year. So that's kind of the guys that immediately come to mind as far as doing that. As far as Javen Coleman, he is back. Had a full Tommy John reconstruction after I think his third appearance, last year. So that was in March. So at March it'll be 12 months. Sometimes those guys take differently, to the surgeries, the different procedures they have. What I can tell you is we will be very smart about when his return will be, and I can't really comment on that, 3 or 4 months out. I think that, or 4 or 5 months out. Throwing program will begin at some point later this fall, and then we're just going to kind of have to see how it goes, but we won't be rushing him into action before he's ready.
Coach, just your catcher position, could you update us on that progress and who's healthy and ready to go?
Yeah, happy to. There was a lot of moving parts throughout the summer. Alex Milazzo, relative to the 2 returners first, was hurt in like the 9th game last year, which we finally got to the bottom of what the injury actually was, and we're able to get, it's called plica, something like that, a growth in his knee. So we was able to get that out and clean that out. And that's alleviated all the pain from my understanding. And he looks really good physically. So I don't see any reason that he can't get back and work in the fall. Hayden Travinsky went up to the Cape Cod League for about a month, I believe, and had some at-bats this summer. I went up there to see him play. Working really hard right now on his swing, making some changes to try to develop more consistency. Strength is certainly not a problem for him. So I think he's on to a good track. But really where I think hit the jackpot was all three of our incoming guys that can catch easily could have been drafted and signed. And all of them ended up here, which is great for us. Brady Neal from IMG Academy, left-handed hitter, one of the best hitters, that's going to go to college, in my opinion, just in terms of his ability to make contact and hit the ball on a line and handle good pitching. Also really good receiver, really good catcher. Jared Jones, keep him away from, actually the next two guys, Jared Jones and Ethan Frey, keep those guys away from Coach Kelly because they look like football players. Jared has tremendous power, had an outstanding high school season. The MLB Combine at Petco Park in, I believe it was June, he took the most impressive batting practice of any high school or college hitter there. So, that's top 300 players in the country. So that gives you a little insight on his potential. Can also play first base and moves pretty well for his size, so may be able to do some other things. And the same thing with Ethan. So, we were at Josh as soon as he got here. It was like, hey, let's do a rundown of the catchers in the portal because we're not sure how this thing's going to go. And obviously, those guys had a really hard time staying healthy last year, and so it was nice to be able to pull back and not have that side project, pull up.
Hey, Coach, this will feel like really old news, but I'm just curious your thoughts on the recruits, the number of recruits that signed, the transfers that ended up signing because they were all eligible. Is that more a factor of professional baseball? Are they all unrelated individual cases? And are there a couple of situations where you were literally really surprised what happened?
A couple thoughts on that is Major League Baseball has a system where they have a lot of money at their disposal. They probably sell $2 million in hot dogs at a 9-inning game. So they have all this money that can be passed out. So that is what it is. Wasn't really blindsided by anything that happened. Maybe one surprise there at the end, but those guys made their decision to go do that, and I couldn't be happier about the guys that we got here. One of the bonuses of coming to a place like LSU is not only do they get to develop, not only are they going to be more prepared when they're a professional player, but bright spotlight. And the guys that decided to come to college and turn down signing bonuses, it's their time to have their name heard, and that's kind of where we'll keep the focus on them.
Just curious, you were talking about Josh and being relentless on the road. Was part of that hire to let you focus a little bit more on the baseball and less on the road?
I'm going to do whatever I need to do to help us win and win at the highest possible level. And both these guys know that they have my full support. If I need to do something, I can't tell a pitcher what Wes can as far as developing them, physically and, when to get the ball out of their glove and create deception and finger pressure and all that type of stuff. But from a mindset standpoint, I probably can't help him or reinforce something that he wants. And from my chair, you can kind of do that. And I will always do that when asked upon. And from Josh's standpoint, he works incredibly hard. I know the evaluations, of an Omaha caliber player. That's what we're going to get out of him. But there's a lot of effort in recruiting now in terms of what it takes to get those players to choose you, to stay with you, to bypass professional baseball for you. So the answer is probably no. Okay. All right, Wes Johnson.
How's everybody doing today? Rocking?
Questions for Coach?
Hey, Coach, how's your transition been so far to LSU? I mean, you've only been here for a few months now.
That's pretty standard, right? Back up, move, get down here, and start working, man. So really not a whole lot to it. Yeah, I mean, it's just been a transition. You're trying to learn the players and learn what they can and can't do.
Hi, Coach. Leah Van from The Advocate. I guess the natural question is why leave professional baseball and come back to the college game?
Yeah, that we could be here all day if we got into all that, but it boils down to this. I mean, I enjoyed my time of professional baseball, loved it, really missed developing young men. Again, to see them when they're 18 to 22 and get to another level from that standpoint. Missed that. Quite frankly, I want to win a national title. I think this is a place you can do it at. And, you got to have the right people in place, and obviously, the head coach here is phenomenal at what he does. And so that made that transition and that decision pretty easy once he called and we were able to work out, some logistics and so forth. And once that got worked out, I was ready to go.
Yeah, hey, Coach, just the process of building out the pitching staff this summer, I imagine it was probably chaotic and pretty hectic at times. Could you just talk us maybe through some behind-the-scenes stuff of just how all that came together and just your excitement level about some of the pitchers you guys have brought into the program this year?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't bring any of them in. Jay did. But, so, no, he's done a really good job of getting these guys in here. So from that standpoint, as somebody alluded to earlier, we've got a good balance of left and right. You've got some guys, now it's about finding roles and who can do what, who's going to be your left-handed specialist out of the pen, so to speak, who's going to be able to come in and stop games, stop bleeding, so forth. So right now there is – I have no preconceived notions on any of them. Anytime I've come in to a new place, new situation – I want to know a few things, but at the same time, I should be the guy who comes in and goes, no, you need to prove it to me too. So it's a fresh start for a lot of those guys. Like I say, because I am coming in, I've looked at all of them and said, hey, I don't have any preconceived notions about you, your stats. I was fortunate enough to coach in the big leagues and see guys who struggled in Double-A, and then the next year they're having success in the big leagues. So, I try not to take too much from other people. I want to see with my own eyes and let those guys come in and have a fresh start. You never know. Maybe they've turned over something different. They found a pitch in summer ball, so forth. So that's kind of the way I'll handle that.
Hi, Coach. Steve Schneider. Jay just mentioned the fact that being at a place like this is where players can develop for pro ball. Obviously, that's your job with the pitchers. I'm sure a lot of fans were excited to see how much time you've been in the league. Can you just talk about the competitiveness and the packed ballparks and where SEC, baseball is?
Yeah, it's the best league in the country, period. I'll debate that with anybody around the world. I mean, this place is the closest thing to professional baseball at the collegiate level, from the fans, from what's sitting in this room right now, to just their ability. So, it's funny. We were talking to Coach Bergman this morning, and we were looking at, you got a lot of players in this league who will spend 1 year in the minors and then go straight to the big leagues. And that's because that's the competition top to bottom through this league. So, yeah, it's the best in the country, in my opinion.
Last year, a lot of this team's struggles was finding that starting pitcher rotation. What do you bring to the table as far as building that starting pitching rotation, and what's the recipe for developing guys that can start a game?
Strikes help. Strikes with multiple pitches help. So yeah, then from there you got to be able to be durable. You got to be able to go long into a game. Be able to control. There's so many factors, right? We can sit there and check a lot of boxes. Control the running game, field your position. Be able to navigate a lineup more than once is something that's huge, meaning, there's a lot of relievers, and you see that a lot on TV in games. There's a lot of guys who can come in and have power stuff for one time through the lineup, and then that second time through the lineup, they start to get hit a little bit. So one of the things, probably besides strikes and all the other things I said, is do they have enough stuff to get through that lineup more than once?
Hey, I'm not sure how in depth you can get on this, but obviously spending the last 4 years in professional baseball, just what are some of maybe the big things that you took from that experience that you think will really weigh, kind of benefits for college pitchers coming up here?
Just how hard they work. I asked a couple guys today that I've already seen. You want to be great? I got bad news for you. Great's it's very boring at that level. I mean, we all see them on TV, hit homers, and they're on commercials, and they're doing all these things. But getting to the ballpark every day for a 6:40 game at 12 o'clock and starting a 5-hour routine every single day for 210 days, there's nothing really cool about that. Matter of fact, if you're not ready for it, it'll get you. I think it's something just emphasizing the importance of how hard it is every single day there, and what you have to do from a routine standpoint.
Given the timeline of your departure from Minnesota and your and you coming here, how involved were you in the sort of the roster building process so far this offseason?
The roster was pretty much in place, obviously, when I came in. So, yeah, I'd say 0.
Why Jay? Obviously, you guys had previous conversations. Why now? Why Jay? What does he have that you think makes winning a national title here possible?
That's a loaded question, too. I mean, we could be here for a while. In short, he has no off switch. I've come from a business where you have no off. You may have one, you can't turn it on, though. I think you look at what it really takes in today's game, from recruiting, from development, from everybody working from top to bottom. In my opinion, that's what it takes to build a sustainable contender every year, and he has all those qualities. So, yeah. Thanks.
Welcome, guys. I echo what Coach Johnson said earlier. I appreciate you guys taking time to be here, and excited to chat with you guys and answer any questions you maybe have.
Your earliest recollection of LSU baseball?
Yeah. Well, probably even in elementary, middle school, when Coach Burtman was coaching those great teams in the 90s, and seeing them on TV, seeing them in Omaha. And then, obviously, had a chance to coach in this stadium in 2012 when I was an assistant coach at Appalachian State. And so I've been in this environment, know it's the best in college baseball, and excited to be part of that.
Hey, Coach. So what aspects of your recruiting philosophy sort of match up with Coach Johnson? I'm just sort of curious what are some of the things that you two sort of share in that aspect of the game?
Well, everywhere I've been, regardless of the situation, I've always focused on what we have, not what we don't have. And I think at LSU you have the best in the country. This is the New York Yankees of college baseball. And so what we focus on is Omaha caliber players. Guys are going to get us in the national championship game each and every year. So when you go out and you evaluate who actually falls into that category for us, that's who you attack. And then you put everything invested into that individual and to get him here to Baton Rouge. Along those same lines, I mean, our recruiting is collective. One of the reasons I know he mentioned why Jay for Wes. For me, in today's world, the head coach has to be engaged in the recruiting process. You cannot get those top 15 players in the country into your campus if he's not, and that's why Jay's the hardest working head coach in the country in terms of recruiting, and getting the chance to work beside him was an unbelievable opportunity for me. So
yeah, just kind of along those lines, how did you and Jay connect? Have y'all met previously, or kind of what's the onset of your relationship?
Yeah, great question. I've had that question a lot. When I first got to Duke, Jay was at San Diego, and I came from a place, Appalachian State, which was very state-oriented recruiting, to regional at best. And we jumped onto kind of a national landscape, just like LSU. I mean, it's a national brand. And having to go throughout the country, what I started doing was watching guys and looking at guys and looking at programs that were similar to ours. Where were they finding players? What were they doing? What events? What teams were they watching? All those things. And Arizona Fall Classic, things like that. Jay was always there, and don't claim to be the smartest guy in the room, but I feel like I'm a pretty good observer. And I watched where Jay Johnson went. What teams did he watch? What teams did he focus on? What players? Those sorts of things. And so kind of just through casual observation said, okay, that guy does it the right way at a place that's very similar to what I'm at. Let me mimic what he does. And started kind of building that relationship, just crossing paths with him. And like I said moments ago, he's the hardest working head coach in recruiting in the country. And so it's a good guy to learn from, watch from, and kind of built that relationship from there.
Coach, not to any one specific player, but just in general, how often are you getting questions about NIL dollars from players, parents, to potentially offset what they would be foregoing in bonus money to go straight to professional baseball?
Yeah, great question, because it is the buzzword right now and the phrase, and it's kind of what a lot of student athletes at the high school level are focused on. So we do get questions about that a lot. But understand something, and Jay mentioned it yesterday to our players in the team meeting. First and foremost, LSU is a great education, and you come here to get that degree. And so it's what you're putting together in terms of a package. And so we're going to focus on every single component of that package to make this the best situation for any player in the country. And so we do get that question a lot. It comes up. This athletic department is at the forefront of that. So that, again, just one more thing we can sell when we're out recruiting and talking with families.
Just curious what your in-season duties will be, who you work with as far as fielders, and then what do you want to get out of this? Obviously, working with Jay and flexing your brain the way you can, in certain spaces. At the end of this, what do you want for yourself?
Yeah, great question. Number one, I'll be working with the catchers and first baseman and helping in any capacity that I can with the hitters. One of the things Jay asked me when we were interviewing was, can you throw BP? And I said, yes, and I'm very good at it. And so, I'm going to help however I'm always here as a coach to echo what Wes mentioned moments ago. There's no off switch in this profession. And so I help anyhow I can, but mainly with the catchers and first baseman. In terms of what do I want to get out of this, a national championship, because this is a place you can do that, number one. And then, things that I think people that know me, that are close to me, understand that I enjoy the recruiting process. I enjoy sitting down, meeting families, and connecting with families. And sometimes when you make a transition somewhere else into a head coaching role, you don't get to maybe do that as much. I like working the phone. I like talking with scouts. I like talking with travel coaches, junior college coaches. That's just something I enjoy. And, I want to be here and win a national championship and more than one. So, so that's what I'm looking to get out of this. And also develop players. I think something that I know a lot of the focus about me has been on the recruiting piece. I still think I'm really good at developing players. I think I've done a really good job of coaching catchers and developing players where I've been, and that's important to me. It's not just going out and bringing the best players here, which we will be able to do. It's also developing those players in a really good system that Coach Johnson has in place.
Coach, over here, is there something that's kind of fun about being able to recruit the player pool that you are here and with the brand of LSU?
A lot of fun. Like I mentioned earlier, everywhere I've been, I've tried to focus on it being a baseball decision. Yeah, the education's been important, and it is an important piece of the process. I've always been focused on, are we getting the best baseball player for our program? And at LSU, what makes it a lot of fun is you are. You're getting a chance to handpick from that top 50 players in the country that you want to be part of your program. Who are the right fits academically, who are the right fits character-wise, and all those things. And so that's a lot of fun to me. Like I told you, I have a passion for that, and that's important for me in my development as a coach, is continue to push that envelope. Jay mentioned recruiting classes. Our goal is every year I set a high standard for myself and for this program recruiting-wise. We want the number one recruiting class in the country. We will not settle for less than that. We're going to work hard to get that.
Coach, you might have just answered my question.
Yes, sir.
But how did you get so many good players to go to Duke?
Well, There's a lot of things. Great question. There's a lot of things that go into recruiting, facilities, opportunities, development. A lot of those things go into recruiting.